Hi everybody, this is a 6th grade video for Tuesday, May 5th for Language Arts. It's from this book here, My Perspectives. We're still in Unit 5, Exploration. Today we're reading a piece of the Tales from the Odyssey by Mary Pope Osborne. It actually sort of has to do a little bit with history because you're learning about the Greek. So this is sort of perfectly ties in with that. Let me read in the background here. This is a longer story. It's going to take us 2 videos or 2 days to read the whole thing. Okay, so I'm starting here. In Tales from the Odyssey, Mary Pope Osborne adapts the famous Greek epic by Homer called the Odyssey. Homer's prequel to the Odyssey was called the Iliad, which tells the story of the Trojan War, a 10-year war between the Greeks and the people of Troy. In the Odyssey, Homer tells the story of Odysseus, a Greek king and a war hero, and the long, dangerous journey he and his men make on their way home from the Trojan War. The excerpt from Osborne's retelling starts at the beginning of their 10-year journey. So this is a classic piece written 1,000, 2,000 years ago, but someone recent retold the story, so that's what we're reading from today. There's also movies called Clash of the Titans, Return of the Titans, Hercules, the Disney movie, that have to do with Greek gods and mythology too. So let's get into it. The Odyssey begins. You have a copy of this also in your Google Classroom. Here we go. Soon after the Greek ships left Troy, the skies began to blacken. Lightning zigzagged above the foamy sea. Thunder shook the heavens. Mighty winds stirred the water. The waves grew higher and higher until they were rolling over the bows of the ship. "The gods are punishing us," the Greek warriors shouted. "We shall all drown." As his men frantically fought the storm, Odysseus felt bewildered. Why was Zeus, the god of the skies, hurling his thunderbolts at them? Why was Poseidon, who was the lord of the sea, sending great waves over the waters? Odysseus turned to his men. What has happened to anger the gods?" he shouted. "Tell me." One of the questions in your Google Doc is asking, why were the gods mad? So the answer is going to be right here. Before we left Troy, Greek warriors invaded Athena's temple. They were violent and disrespectful. Odysseus was stunned. The Greeks had offended the goddess who had helped them to victory, and now her anger might drown them all. The wind, it grew stronger. It whipped the sails of the Greek ships and slashed them to rags. "Lift your oars!" Odysseus shouted to his men. "Row! Row to shore!" The Greeks struggled valiantly against the mighty wind and waves. Fighting for their lives, they finally rowed that battered ships to a strange shore. There, they found shelter in a rocky cave. So we're now on paragraph 10. Here we go. The storm raged for 2 more days and nights. Then on the 3rd day, a fair wind blew, the sun came out, and the wine-dark sea was calm at last. "Now we can continue on our way," Odysseus said to the men. "Athena is no longer angry." In the rosy dawn, he ordered them to raise their tattered sails and set off again for Ithaca. But alas, the wrath of Athena had not been fully spent. Hardly had Odysseus reached the open sea that another gale storm began to blow. We're now in paragraph 13. For many days, Odysseus and his men fought the wind and the waves, refusing to surrender to the storm. And finally, on the 10th day, there was sudden calm. Odysseus ordered his fleet to sail into the cove of a leafy green island. There he hoped to find food and drink for the hungry, weary men. The Greeks dropped anchor. Then they dragged themselves ashore. They drank cool, fresh water from a spring and collapsed onto the sand. As Odysseus rested, he ordered 3 of his men to explore the island and look for provisions. This is another Google question, so pay attention here. When the 3 had not returned by late afternoon, Odysseus grew angry. Where did they tarry? He wondered. Odysseus set out in search of the men. He moved through the brush and the brambles, calling their names. He had not gone far when he came across a group of peaceful islanders. They greeted him with warm, friendly smiles, and they offered him their food, lovely, bright flowers. So here's a picture in our textbook of that scene. You can pause it there. Okay, let's continue. Odysseus was famished, but just as he was about to eat the flowers, he caught sight of his missing men. The three were lying on the ground with dreamy smiles on their faces. Odysseus called each man by name, but none of them answered. They did not even look at him. "What have you done to them?" he asked the islanders. "We have given them our flowers to eat," an islander answered. "This is our greatest gift. The gods would be angry if we did not offer to feed our guests." "What sort of flowers are these?" Odysseus asked. "They come from the lotus tree," the islander said. "They have the magical power of forgetfulness. They make a man forget the past." "Forget his memories of home?" asked Odysseus. "And his memories of his family and his friends?" This will be the last section we read today. So I'm going to read this top part here, and I'm going to stop where it says the mysterious shore. The lotus eaters only smiled. They again offered Odysseus their sweet, lovely flowers, but he roughly brushed them away. He pulled his 3 men to their feet and commanded them all to return to the ships at once. The men began to weep, that means cry. They begged to be left behind so that they could stay on the island and eat lotus flowers forever. Odysseus angrily herded the men back onto their ships. As they drew near the shore, the 3 tried to escape. Odysseus called for help. We're now in paragraph 30. "Tie their hands and tie their feet," he shouted to his crew. "Make haste, before others eat the magic flowers and forget their homes too." The 3 flailing men were hauled aboard and tied to rowing benches. Then Odysseus ordered the 12 ships to push off from shore. Once more the Greeks set sail for Ithaca, sweeping the gray sea for their long oars. As they rowed past dark islands with jagged rocks and shadowy covers, Odysseus felt troubled and anxious. What other strange wonders lurked on these dark, unknown shores? We'll have to find out what happens next time. See you then.